The Blue Jackets' comeback attempt started just a little bit too late last night, but more importantly, what are they going to do if Dante Fabbro is gone for any real amount of time? We're going to talk about all of that on today's Locked On Blue Jackets.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster. To give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get things started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every single day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. And I also have to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Bilt Rewards. Start earning points on rent you're already paying by going to joinbilt.com/LockedOnNHL. Let's talk about last night's game. I'm actually not going to spend a ton of time on last night's game. It was frustrating. It sucked. It is what it is. Blue Jackets started trying in the third period, and it was just a little bit too late. But I want to talk about the game a little bit. I want to talk about what do they do if Dante Fabbro is out for any length of time, because that suddenly has become a big loss to the Blue Jackets. He's been one of their best defensemen. So let's talk about that, and then I've got another chunk of episode from my pals over at Locked On NHL Prospects, where they're checking in with the AHL prospect guys now. So let's start off. Let's talk about the game because it was. I told you it wasn't going to be like the last one. It almost was. They sleptwalked through the first couple of periods. I feel like maybe that's unfair to them. They weren't as good as Tampa Bay, which we knew, right? Like, nothing about what happened last night was a real surprise for anyone, I don't think. But the fact that they got outshot 10-5 in the first period, 15-9 in the second, and then 17-7 in the third, like, they could have done this all along. And is that partially maybe like Tampa Bay sitting on their lead a little bit? Like, they were 4-0 up. They thought, hey, maybe surely they can't score 4 goals in a period, right? And they nearly did. Great to see Adam Fantilli get a goal. It's been a minute. Great to see Cole Sillinger get a goal. I love to get predictions right. And then Mikhail Pucha with a birthday goal as well. A power play goal for Cole Sillinger as well. So on the one hand, yay, power play. On the other hand, they allowed a penalty kill goal. They allowed a power play goal. So their streak of not having a game with a power play goal against ends at 3-4 games. Which is not nothing, but is the end of a streak, So they just struggled, I think. And this is Jet Greaves, I don't think, is ready for the big guns in this league yet. That's not to say that he won't be ready soon, but I don't think he's ready to be the full-time starter for this team. And that feels like it's a little bit of a hot take. I don't think it is, but it feels like some people might consider it to be. And a lot of people have been talking about how get rid of Elvis, get rid of Tarasov. We're just gonna have Greaves now. He was great against Washington. He was fine last night, I thought. Struggled against the Ducks. I think partially, he did his best last night. Again, Tampa Bay's a good team. They are lethal. They're just so efficient with their shooting. And he pulled it back a little bit. What was it? 4 goals on 32 shots, which is not great, but is probably about what would have happened with any other goalie in net, frankly. So that this is what I said when he was called up, last week and a half ago. Jet Greaves is not going to be the savior of this team. He might stabilize them in goal a little bit, but he's not going to figure out the defensive lapses. He's not going to figure out the goal scoring issues. He's not going to, he's going to do the best he can, but he's a 23-year-old goalie with 12 games of NHL experience. And I think that's, we're seeing that. Do I think he's the best option in goal at the minute? Yeah, probably. It feels like that they're using him to send a little bit of a message to Elvis specifically. So we'll see kind of what comes from that. But Jet Greaves has not magically turned this team into one that wins games. Maybe that'll change. I don't know. But like I said, this game it was about what I expected. It started off with the Tampa Bay Lightning scoring, and then they just kind of added to their lead and added to their lead. And yeah, like great fight in the third, great comeback attempt. Weirdly timed goalie pull from Dean Everson. I don't know that I would have pulled the goalie right then and there, but hey, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, you know? And I feel like Tampa Bay specifically are really great at scoring empty net goals. I don't know why I think that, but I feel like they're just if you pull the goalie against them, they're just going to put the puck in the net, and they did, you know. So 5-3, it looks like it was a closer game than it was 5-3. I feel like, you know, it feels, and I think that's because the empty net goals don't count, but like emotionally, it felt like a 4-3 game, you know. Unfortunately, what this means is the Blue Jackets are now 5 games in a row they've lost. They've got 1 win in their last 9 games. So 2 wins in their last 10, I think. Like it's not looking great over here. Like I said, the good news is that the rest of the East doesn't seem to want to win games either. They are 4 points out of a wildcard spot. The wildcard spot's currently held by Ottawa and Pittsburgh after Pittsburgh's win last night. But the Islanders lost. The Rangers and the Flyers didn't play last night, I don't believe. You know, so there's something there. You know, there's definitely something there. No one's run away with it yet. It is kind of a tale of 2 divisions. Like the top 3 have 45, 44, and 41 points, and then 4th place, which is Pittsburgh, has 33. So like there's a big jump between like what I would consider the good Metro teams and everyone else. But the Blue Jackets are not out of it yet. They could be very soon, though, if they're not careful, you know, and 2 big games coming up for the rest of the week. Tomorrow they play New Jersey. They play Philadelphia after that. Like it's been a lot of Metro opponents recently. So they need to figure this out, because if they go down again to the Devils, it's just going to get that much harder to keep climbing back up. I would argue that a win over the Flies is more important than a win over the Devils, but you don't want to go down to another 6-game losing streak. However, things might have gotten harder because Dante Fabbro left the game with a knee injury. No update on that yet, but it looked nasty. And if they're without Dante Fabbro for any length of time, then that's going to make this team's job even harder. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and what happens if they are without Dante Fabbro for any length of time. So we'll talk about that in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I'm going to tell you about Select Quote. The World Series, the Super Bowl, the Olympics, the world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing: teamwork. Teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. Select Quote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's end zone. SelectQuote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. Other insurance brokers offer impersonal, one-size-fits-all policies that might cost more and cover less, but SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents work for you and tailor a life insurance policy for your individual needs in as little as 15 minutes. And these policies are more affordable than you think. You can get coverage for up to $1 million for as little as $20 a month. Head to SelectQuote.com and a licensed insurance agent will call you right away with the right policy for your life and your budget. SelectQuote. They shop, you save. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. Go to selectquote.com/lockedonnhl today to get started. That's selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. I've also got to tell you about Bilt Rewards. If you're a renter, listen up. This is a total game changer. Thanks to Bilt, you can now earn points on rent payments just like you do with groceries or travel. Paying rent now comes with serious perks, and it's completely free to join. You can earn Bilt points on your rent and everyday spending at no extra cost, and you can redeem those points towards flights, hotel stays, and even future rent payments. With over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels in their program, the possibilities are endless. I love using points for travel. I'm going to Milan next week, and I got to use air miles for it, and I love that. And Bilt makes it so easy to turn my rent payments into rewards. If you're already paying rent, why not make it work for you? Start earning points on rent you're already paying by going to joinbuilt.com/lockedonnhl. That's joinbuilt.com/lockedonnhl. Make sure to use our link so they know we sent you. Don't wait. Start earning rewards today. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. We talked about the game, the comeback that started too late. But honestly, the more important part of the game to me was the fact that they lost Dante Fabbro to what looked like a pretty nasty knee injury partway through the second period. This is a problem because the Blue Jackets now have exactly one competent right defenseman, and that's Damon Severson. So I don't know what the injury update is on Fabbro. As of the time of recording this, there hasn't been an update. It'll probably happen about 3 minutes after I finish recording, because that's how this works, you know. But if Fabbro is gone for any length of time, then what do you do? What do the Blue Jackets do? You know, because right now you look at the defensemen, and you've got on your left side, you've got Werenski, you've got Provorov, you've got Christensen, Jordan Harris is a left shot defenseman as well. On your right side, without Fabbro, you've got Damon Severson and Jack Johnson, and that's it. So what do you do with that? You know, I know what I would do. I would move Provorov back over to the right. I would put him up with Werenski. I would move Christensen back up, and that's the top four that you started the season with that, you know, worked pretty well there. And then you just kind of cope with having Jordan Harris and Jack Johnson on the third pairing until you figure something out. Or do you make a call up? You know, I know that a lot of people are going to be clamoring for Denton Mateychuk to make an appearance. I'm wondering if this is when we see Damon Hunt show up to the Blue Jackets. Again, this is all kind of theoretical, honestly. The Blue Jackets haven't made any kind of announcement about how long Dante Fabbro is going to be out. It might be a couple of weeks. It might be longer. You know, it didn't look great when he was skating off the ice, so I'm kind of like emotionally preparing for the worst. But if he is gone, then like, yeah, that's a big loss. Damon Hunt so far has played 5 games for the Cleveland Monsters, just in terms of guys that could get called up, because that's the guy I'm looking at, because I think they want to leave Denton Mateychuk in the AHL as long as they possibly can. He's got 4 assists in 5 games for Cleveland so far, and is doing quite well for himself down there. Denton Mateychuk, just to check in, has 23 points in 25 games. I believe is continuing to lead rookie scoring. Okay, no, he's Frank Nazar has taken over. He's got 24 points in 21 games. But Denton Mateychuk leading all rookie defensemen in scoring, leading all defensemen in scoring still as well. Wild. But so those are really like the 2 options here in terms of who they want to call up, and I think it does depend on what they want to do. Because they want to play Mateychuk on his right, not on his off wing, on his right wing, which is his left. They want to play him at the left. That was a really complicated way of saying that. So do they move Provorov over to the right and have, you know, Provorov with Werenski, and then maybe Mateychuk and Severson, and then keep Christensen and Harris on the bottom pairing? I don't know. Do they keep Provorov where he is? Do they move Severson up to that top pairing and then move? I don't really. They can't possibly be thinking of putting like Jack Johnson on the second pairing, can they? Can they? They might. But that'll be where Damon Hunt slots in, I would imagine. So, like I said, it really depends on what they want to do. I think it depends on how long Dante Fabbro is going to be out for. Like, they might just want to call up, you know, they might call up someone else. They might call up Stanislav Svozil, for example, who's second among defensive scoring at the minute, and is someone that I'm quite high on in terms of defensive prospects. But I think, and this is where, like, obviously I'm not, the Jiricek trade happened. The Jiricek trade is done. Like, the Jiricek trade not happening would not have, like, if Fabbro is done for the season, I still don't think that David Jiricek would have gotten much of a look in, you know? However, the right defense in terms of NHL ready players is, and I'm not saying that David Jiricek was automatically NHL ready, but he has NHL experience, you know? The right D is looking extremely, extremely wobbly. Like, Fabbro has become a load-bearing defenseman extremely fast. And again, if he is missing for any length of time, I think they're going to be real glad that they didn't trade Provorov last month when teams really started asking for him. Like, because then that would have left basically no one. It would have been Zach Werenski, Damon Severson, and guys, So I still think Provorov moves. I know that he really likes it in Columbus. He wants to stay, but I think he also was going to want to go after that big 8-year extension. I don't think Columbus is going to give him 8 years. So I still think they move him probably at the deadline, depending on what the Blue Jackets are doing. Even if they are in a playoff spot, I still think they maybe sell at the deadline. Quite honestly, they've got too many guys not to. But again, we'll get to that when we come to it. I didn't expect Dante Fabbro to become such an integral part of this back end so fast. But he walked in, he straight to the top pairing with Zach Werenski, has been great. He had a couple of rough games against, I want to say, I think it was the Ducks and the Hurricanes that he had a kind of a rough weekend. He was looking fine last night up until Connor Geekie decided to murder him. So it's gonna be a loss, which surprised me because I didn't think that he was going to come in and become so integral so fast, but he's fitted in really well. Sources are saying that he likes it in Columbus. He's having fun. He's playing well. So obviously the injury curse had to get him because this team is cursed, just fully cursed. But we'll see what happens. Obviously, if there's any updates, we'll keep you guys updated on that. Hopefully, he's out for a couple of weeks, nothing longer. We'll find out maybe today. I don't think we'll get details on anything, but because they love to do the we're not going to tell anyone anything. They're going to be out long term, etc. But we'll find out. Surgery or no surgery is probably going to be a pretty big indicator on how long he's out for. Hopefully, it's not surgery. But it didn't look great. So I am kind of emotionally preparing for the worst here. But if the Blue Jackets are without Fabbro, then I think it's the on-ice play is going to get worse. Because Zach Werenski can only play so many minutes. And Dante Fabbro has been a real good addition to this team. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Going to take another quick break, and then when we get back, I've got another chunk of Locked On NHL Prospects for you. They're actually talking about the guys in the AHL, which is timely. So we'll check in with what those guys have to say about what the Monsters are doing, key prospects down there. There'll be some Denton Mateychuk talk. There'll be some Gavin Brindley talk. All of that good stuff coming up in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I've got to tell you about PrizePicks. If you love sports, you're going to love PrizePicks. It's the best place to turn your sports knowledge into real money. Whether it's hockey, football, or any of your favorite sports, PrizePicks makes it easy to get in on the action. You can now win up to 1,000 times your money on PrizePicks. Plus, this holiday season, they're giving away $30+ million in rewards during Pixmas and offering 2 free picks in December. And when your picks hit, PrizePicks makes it easy to cash out. You can get your money in as fast as 15 minutes. All you have to do is pick more or less on player stats. And if you're right, you can start racking up the combos and you can win some money. This week, I'm eyeing the hockey board. I'm looking at Jack Hughes, more than 4 shots on goal. Artemi Panarin to have more than 1 assist. So easy to make my picks. I can have fun with friends and I can cash out fast. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 instantly with code LOCKEDONNHL after you play your first $5 lineup. Code LOCKEDONNHL. PrizePicks. Run your game.
Alrighty, so moving on to the AHL, we've got a bunch of prospects to talk about here because the Columbus Blue Jackets have stacked the Cleveland Monsters with basically all of our prospects. So we'll talk first and foremost about Denton Mateychuk, who's been doing very, very well in the AHL so far after just absolutely ragdolling the WHL for the past couple of years. Talk me through his game. What makes him interesting? What's made him succeed so far in the AHL? All of that good stuff.
High-end intelligence. It really goes down to that with Denton Mateychuk. It's a combination of intelligence and playing at high pace on both sides of the puck. He's constantly hounding the puck, really high motor as a player. And we've seen him in the WHL leading for the forecheck night in, night out at times for the Moose Jaw Warriors. And while he has been playing that style of play in the AHL for good reason, that does not translate to the professional realm quite as well as it does in junior hockey. He's been playing very intense hockey, and I like how he's been closing off his gaps in the neutral zone. He's very aggressive as a defender, and he tries to leverage his mobility as well to just make spaces really tight and constrained for attackers rushing down his side of the ice. But it's the offensive side of the game that makes him really, really stand out. He's a fantastic puck mover, really good puck handler, so fluid in all of his movements, whether it's layering passes into deceptive handling moves or getting shots off while showing pass or vice versa. He's a really, really well-rounded player with the puck on his stick, and he's been quite daring as well as a rookie in the AHL this season. He's, I believe, second in points on the team, he's fourth in points on the team as a defenseman with 22 points in 23 games as a rookie, mind you, leading all AHL defensemen in points to this stage this season. And it's been just a really, really smooth transition. And I definitely think that with how good Mateychuk has been in the AHL, it was one of the big reasons that Columbus may have felt safe with moving on from David Jiricek. Of course, Mateychuk is a left shot defenseman. He's not as physical as Jiricek is, different profiles. But in terms of having a blue chip defenseman in the reins that could be an NHLer by the end of this season, that definitely frees a team up to move on from a big player like David Jiricek. So I think that Mateychuk is a really key component of this roster, and certainly now the best blue liner in the entire system for the Blue Jackets.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt about that at this point. He's just absolutely phenomenal from the blue line there. And yeah, I remember him being like a big subject of conversation in his draft class. And I'm really glad that the Columbus Blue Jackets picked him up because he brings a style of play that even David Jiricek can't bring, and I don't think any of their NHL defensemen can bring. So having that, future high-end piece at the blue line is really, really good for the Blue Jackets. This is going to be, he's going to be a fantastic NHLer moving forward. But speaking of future fantastic NHLers, let's talk about Gavin Brindley for a second here, because Brindley has been pretty interesting this year. He's played 8 games so far for the Cleveland Monsters, scored 6 points, a goal and 5 assists. And his game has always been kind of playmaking leaning, but he's really kind of a really, really refined player, and is surprisingly physical and defensively sound forward for his size at 5'9", 160 pounds. He's a frail player in terms of the frame itself, but he uses it so well. I mean, inside positioning, he engages contact proactively, kind of gets defenders off of their center of balance on retrieval attempts. He kind of attacks their hands early when it comes to retrieval plays as well. The positioning, the hockey sense is really good defensively as well, right? Like, this is a prospect who has all the makings of a two-way forward moving forward, right?
He absolutely does. And I mean, that motor is one of the best that we've seen come through the draft in the last couple of seasons. It really sets him apart. And on top of just like the motor, the combination of an elite level motor with elite level speed in a straight line, as well as like in terms of like redirecting momentum, like when he goes for a cutback, it can create so much space and time for himself that he's really been learning since his draft year. Whereas in his draft year, he was often just a very straight line skater, single speed often, which was his top speed, which is really blisteringly fast, but lacks a bit of deception. He's gotten a lot better at kind of varying his speeds and making use of his skating to the absolute most. And I think that's been clear in the AHL so far. I don't think it's going to take him very long to be an NHLer full-time either. The way he plays the game has NHL written all over it. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the day that he's reunited with his good buddy, Adam Fantilli, in the top 6 for the Blue Jackets. But speaking of high-end producers in the AHL, we really cannot skip over Luca Del Belbaluz, who in his second season of AHL hockey leads the team in points with 15 goals and 26 points in just 23 games. And he did that off the back of a really good rookie year last year too, scoring 31 goals in 58 games. But I've been really impressed with how he's been able to leverage the combination of
Yeah.
shooting threat and handling ability at the AHL level. They've always been two of his strengths, but the way that he's been able to compensate for his subpar skating, putting it slightly lightly there as well, is really impressive. And I mean, this past stretch of 10 games for the player has been insane. 9 goals, 15 points in the last 10 games. He's been red hot for the Cleveland Monsters and certainly is a player to watch on the forward line there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's been a monster for them offensively, leads the team in points, and still kind of the, I think if you pull him in the NHL right now, I don't think he'll be as effective for sure, but it works really well for what he's able to do right now. Productive on the power play, really good from the half wall in the bumper spot, rotates a ton, offensively smart. He's got a bunch of details that work really, really well. To kind of quickly go through a couple of the other AHL prospects here on this list, James Malatesta has been doing really well. 12 points in 23 games in his first season there in Cleveland. Still kind of your kind of middle six to bottom six forward. I think that won't change in terms of what he ends up being in the NHL either. You also have a couple of defensemen there. Stanislav Svozil's at half a point a game. He's kind of your two-way defenseman with a bit more of a shutdown leaning. And Corson Kulemans as well has been playing in the AHL. Hasn't been doing too well. 4 points in 22 games, so he's kind of struggling on the point side. A lot of what makes AHL scoring high or low is a lot of deployment, right? So in terms of the minutes, Kuhlman's probably not getting a ton, but
he's played a decent amount actually with Denton Mateychuk. It's mainly, I think, in terms of the role. Like from what I've seen so far of the Cleveland Monsters, which has only been like 2 or 3 games this season, he has been playing in the top 4, but playing a purely defensive role. He patrols the neutral zone, he contains play, and he allows his partner to activate. So a lot of that Mateychuk production is coming from Kuhlman's holding down the fort defensively too.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what happens when you play with Mateychuk. You have to stay back because he'll hunt his own forechecks. Like he's going to be the one activating, and you have to work off of that.
That's all I've got for today. Thank you for listening, for making it your first listen of the day every single day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms, on YouTube, and I appreciate you guys hanging around. You can find me on Twitter at _Jacob Foster, JAKOBFORSTER. You can find the show at LO_Blue Jacket. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll talk about the New Jersey Devils because the rules say that we have to play them. So we'll check in with how they're doing. It's annoyingly good, I'll tell you that now. But that's tomorrow's episode. Thank you for listening to this episode. And until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.